Welcome back to another episode of the Brandon Smith podcast. And this week I had Rob Catton on from Prestatyn FC. He's a massive fan of the club, and with the news that the club would be denied promotion to the Welsh Premier League simply because they did not have a TV gantry in place, I wanted to get his thoughts on the matter. I wanted to get his thoughts on Welsh football in general, on how the licence is a real challenge for many clubs, and also on how he would like to see Welsh football develop in the next few years. If you enjoy this, make sure to subscribe and leave a like on the video and comment your thoughts below. And I started by asking Rob to explain to me his affinity with Prestatyn Football Club.
It's where I live, it's where I was born and brought up, so it's my team. Been following them regularly for about 10 years now, home and away. We do most away trips, work permitting, whatever. Up until recently, I was support liaison officer down there. Worked behind the bar, I've worked the T-bar, I've done quite a lot. I've been on the committee. So yeah, it's just my team, it's just what I do.
Awesome. And this season has been an incredible season, 16 points clear at the top of the league. It's been amazing to see that. I think it's 22 wins out of 26, is it? Something along them lines. But obviously, if they were to finish the season now, you'd assume be promoted, but there's obviously issues around the TV gantry. Can you explain what that issue is and why that affects your ability to get the licence to be able to be promoted?
Well, 2 years ago, that gantry was perfectly fine to play in the Welsh Premier League. So I don't know what. Obviously, we've not been in it for 2 years, so I don't know what's changed. Obviously, the licence is there to drive standards up and make grounds better. But for me, for the football team to play like we've played this season and absolutely wipe the floor with everybody, and our nearest challenges, we've beaten them home and away in league, and we've beaten them away in the cup. I think financially everything's sound, everything else, the structure of the club, they've worked really hard off the pitch and obviously on the pitch. For us to then be denied going up just because the gantry's wrong, I don't know, to me it seems a little bit, that seems wrong in itself, but apparently the issue with the gantry is it's not big enough. We knew we needed to have a new one. Obviously, we haven't been able to get those plans in place because the council was sitting. So for me, it would have been better if they'd have, promoted us in these times where nobody can do anything. Let us go up. Let us play football at a higher level that we're obviously good enough to do. And then we'd have had the gantry up before the start of the season anyway. So, but it's not, apparently it's not big enough. We need a roof on it, and they've obviously knocked us back. So.
Yeah, I understand. I did a podcast with Real FC with some fans from there about the situation with their club. We spoke about the licence, spoke that it was a big issue for them, a big issue for a lot of clubs in Wales, and saying that it's unrealistic. Do you think that the licence is pretty unrealistic? Do you think that it's a burden on a lot of clubs? Because in many ways, Prestatyn and Real are quite settled in Welsh football, but there are a lot of smaller clubs who may do really well one season, but just because of the licence simply cannot get promoted. Do you think it's a big issue in the Welsh game?
I think it is, especially because no other. You never hear this about English football at any of the lower levels. You never hear about the licence. But what I would say is, with the licence, it drives standards up. So if it wasn't for the licence, you would be literally playing in fields, wouldn't you? So I understand the need for the licence, and I'm happy with that, because you want to play at a high level, and you want to play against the best teams with the best facilities. You don't want to be going into grounds where the changing rooms are all in the same place. And we went to one ground this season where the home team did the team talk on the pitch at half time because there was no room in the changing room. So wow. You don't want that. You don't want to be playing at that level. You want to be playing at the higher level. However, you don't want it to stifle good football teams. Prestatyn Town this season have been good enough to get. They've been better than any team in the league, and they've been good enough. They're good enough now to play at the higher level. But because of the TV gantry, we can't do that. Because of a thing like that, we can't do that.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd like to see the licence. I agree with the licence, but you should give clubs the season that they're up to get the ground to standard. Do you know what I mean? So if, for us, it shouldn't have been a problem. They should have said, well, okay, everything else is fine. Go up, play your football, get that gantry sorted before the end of next season. Otherwise, you're relegated. That should be the way it is. I think one of those real lads said the other week, you've got 500 seats in your ground and you're only getting 200 through the door. And but you can't play at the higher level, even though your manager and your players and your coaching staff have worked hard to build a team good enough to do that. So that's where it falls down for me, I'm afraid.
Yeah, the licence, it does seem to be a burden on a lot of clubs, and I think that what we're seeing across world football in the moment is teams who have worked so hard pretty much all season. They get to a point where they think they're going to go up, they're going to get promoted, and obviously because of the current condition in the world, lots of leagues have been cancelled. But for you guys, you've worked hard all season, and something as simple as a TV gantry, it's stopping you getting promoted. It's not as if it's a title race or anything like that. You're 16 points clear. You said, I think you're one win away from winning the league. It's just a little bit ridiculous. And of what I understand, and correct me if I'm wrong, you approached the FAW back in May 2019 about this, and you didn't really hear much. There wasn't much developments between then and October. Can you explain what the process was about approaching the FAW?
As I'm aware, the licence was all in place. It was all going through. There were issues with the gantry regarding the plans. I mean, I'm not really party to what went on, but I know that we were asking questions, the Welsh FA and Scorio, Rondo Media, and between the three of us, it seems that we weren't getting the information that we needed to be able to put plans in. And then when we eventually got that information, obviously this coronavirus epidemic hit, and we're, the council aren't sitting. It was passed by the town council, so the town council was quite happy. None of the neighbours put in any. So I can't think of the word. They were bothered. They were happy for it to go ahead, but then it had to go in front of the county council, and of course they're not sitting. You couldn't send anybody out to do a site visit because obviously we were in lockdown. So it's been a mess from start to finish, really. But like I said before, it shouldn't stop us getting promoted.
Exactly. So, if you can show to them that you're ready to do it and you got everything in place pretty much to do it, then why not do it? Because as you said, who knows when football's going to be back? Who knows when we're going to see football at any level, to be honest. The Bundesliga, as we were talking before, is starting again today, but that's behind closed doors. And Germany is way ahead of the UK in terms of the epidemic. We've seen leagues being cancelled across Europe. The French league, the Dutch league, the Belgian league have all been cancelled. And it just seems really unfair that you guys who've played such good football, have worked so hard, have had to deal with this. Do you know how the players are feeling about this, and the coaching staff? Have they come out and said anything?
I think the players and the coaching staff are obviously gutted. They've worked so hard. From where we were sort of beginning of last season to bottom of the league to where we are now, 16 points clear at the top of the league. They have worked so hard. The structure around the football club in terms of the football side of it, well, in on and off the field, is so professional. You wouldn't believe it. Gibble's got those. Sets those standards and the players buy into it. So they're gutted. But I think it's a case of, well, we'll just go and win it next season. If we won't let us up now, we'll just go and do it again. We'll go and win it again next season. But it'll be a tough league next season. It'll be a good league that coming up next season. But yeah, they're obviously devastated. But they're behind the club, they're behind the manager. So we'll just have to do it again next season. But hopefully it will come to that. Hopefully we can get promoted, but who knows?
Yeah, so for the future, what is the plan now? Have you got plans in place to how to deal with this? Is there going to be an appeal on your behalf from Prestatyn Football Club, or do you just have to wait and see what happens after this pandemic?
Well, as I see it, we've written to Jonathan Ford at the Welsh FA, explaining our grievances. But as of last night, we haven't heard anything as I'm aware. So we're just waiting for we're waiting for the results of this meeting that happened last night, and we're waiting to hear back from the Welsh FA. I think we've got a good case, but that doesn't always mean that you get what you want. So, like I say, we're just waiting to hear what's. We're waiting for them to reply to us. So the ball's in their court.
Definitely, and I think, going back to the license, I want to talk a bit about that. Real FC, obviously, as we spoke about before, have gone into liquidation. New Phoenix club is coming into place. Do you think that losing Real is a big loss to football in North Wales?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I've got no love for Real Football Club. Obviously, we've got the rivalry between the two clubs and what have you. But yeah, it'd be a massive miss. Bellevue's a fantastic ground in terms of the history, and it needs props of spruce up or whatever. But, they're a fantastic club. It's a lovely place to play. I love going to Real. Love going to Real to watch football. It's a good place to go to watch football, and it's got a lot of history in North Wales. Fair play. I hope they come back stronger than ever. I'm not strong as Prestatyn.
No, of course not.
Yeah, I wish them well. So.
Yeah, and it's really sad to see that. And being from Real myself and having been seeing them before and played at Bellevue and things like that, it's really sad to see that happen. I think that's a bigger issue for Welsh sport in general. I want to talk a little bit about the league itself, about the standard of the league, so people who may not have seen the league. So you're in the second tier, so you've got the Welsh Premier League, and you guys are in the second tier, obviously top of that, 16 points clear. How do you see the league? How do you see the standard? Can you compare it to any other league that you know? For people who may not have seen this league before,
I think the standard there is improved immeasurably. You've got a team, Colin Bay, coming from England. You've got Bangor City, a big club. We're a big club. It's a really good standard of football that you're watching. Facilities are good generally on the whole. At most grounds, obviously, there's one or two that aren't so good, but some might say ours included. But the standard of the league, I don't know what I could compare it to really in it sort of England, whatever. But those sort of top 6-7 clubs in that league are probably, a lot of them could probably compete in the Welsh Premier League. I think certainly the top 3 or 4. Flint, a good side. Bangor, they're only going to get better. Colin Bay, they're only going to get better. So, next season, that's going to be a tough league next season. If the league pans out as we think, the Airbus will be back down there next year. They've got plenty of experience in the Welsh Prem. So it's a good standard. There's some good players in that league, let me tell you, and some of the standard of the football is really good.
Another thing I wanted to get your thoughts on was in the Welsh Premier League, obviously you got the new Saints, who are a fully professional team. Do you think that's a big issue for the rest of the league? Because is it truly fair? Obviously the title race in that league has been a lot closer this season. I think Connors Key are really pushing them. But do you think that's a big issue that the league needs to look at, that for it to have the longevity and to have that it's going to be a success over years to come, that they either look at getting every team professional, but is that financially possible? Or do they think, right, maybe the new Saints need to look at a different league?
I think, in terms of the TNS, I think that they were in the right place at the right time, and they showed a lot of foresight to do what they've done and win that league every season for a decade. And the money that the Champions League brings, I think they've done really well. And other clubs, I don't think, have aspired to do what they've done. There's still other clubs in that league are still paying massive wages, but the players are part-time. So it's down to, I think the chairman of TNS has always said, it's down to the clubs to want to match what they do. But of course it costs a lot of money. He's put a lot of money into that club. But also it's probably, a lot of it's probably self-sufficient now with the money that they've earned. Winning the league every season, getting into Europe and earning the big money out of the Champions League. So while I think it's not a level playing field, obviously, it's up to the other clubs to get to their standard. If TNS were pulling in 1,000 fans every week, those fans wouldn't want to be sitting in the Welsh Premier League, would they? They'd want to get into the English tier. But for me, the Lord of Europe, the European money, they're never going to get that in the English tier, are they? So
yeah.
that's what that's the carrot that the Welsh Premier League, isn't it? It keeps the clubs biting. But I'm surprised that a lot that other clubs haven't gone down the professional route, but it is an expense. It's a gamble, because you've got to be guaranteed the European prize money, and they are, because they're street ahead. So when you're playing down there and Park Hall on a Friday night, and our players are working all over the place, and then got to travel to the ground and do the rule and what have you, and TNS have got to feel that's where it's not a playing field. Plus, if you watch TNS, what I can only speak from watching Prestatyn, where we've had some hammerings off them, obviously, but where we've kept close to, we watch a lot of their games. The last 20 minutes, that's where they win their game. They're so much better than the rest of the conditions more than the rest of the league. So that's where it's not a level playing field. I don't begrudge TNS what they've achieved, because they've done it the right way.
Yeah.
And if there was more clubs in the league doing the same thing, the league would be a better league, wouldn't it?
And I think that's what a lot of people forget, is that these guys who play for you and play in these leagues, most of them are working Monday to Friday, and then on a Friday night, maybe they have to travel down to South Wales, or on a Saturday morning very early. They get there, they're tired, they haven't had time to prepare, maybe they've trained once a week, had a stressful week at work or whatever, and all of a sudden they're thrown on a football pitch and expected to deliver. And that is, that is something that the Welsh FA need to try and think about a little bit more, I think, about how are we going to assist these players? How can we financially assist? Because I'm sure they've got some money to assist these players, saying, okay, you don't need to work all through the week like that, and then get to a game and just be tired and not comfortable and able to play. And that's going to be a massive challenge for the league.
So they've got to take time off work as well, haven't they? So that they're using their own holidays. But I think there's a 100-mile rule in the Welsh Prem. So if you're playing in a midweek or on a Friday, you don't travel more than 100 miles. But you try getting from Prestatyn to Aberystwyth, it's an absolute nightmare. It feels like 200 miles on a Friday night after 4 weeks a year, and then you've got to do the same journey back the same night. That's where it falls down. But that's more down to the infrastructure of the country, isn't it? Rather than the football. But it's they have got to look at that. I think they have got to. You look at Connah's Quay, how well they've done over the last few seasons. Yeah, they might have a bit of money behind them, but a lot of those players, there are some there professional, aren't they? But, they've sort of made that step where they have got a lot of professional players, and looks like they're going to win the league. So. Yeah. It is done, like I said before. It's down to the other teams to make that step up. I think rather than pulling TNS down to the level of the other teams, it's up to the other teams to get up to their level. That's going to improve the league as a whole, isn't it? And get more fans through the gates.
Definitely. I just want to finish by asking you a question about the Welsh League format. One of the Real FC supporters, I think it was Will, who mentioned his idea of how to fix it. He suggested that you'd have a North and a South conference, so 10 teams in each maybe, and then at the end of that you have a playoff or a final between the North best team and the South best team. Would you be in favour of that?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. The Welsh Premier League format, the 12 teams and then the split, it's awful. You're playing the same teams over and over again. You might play teams 6 times a season if you draw them in the cup. It's tired in my opinion, and it's boring, and it doesn't do anything for the league, because you get to the split, so you get to Christmas, you've got nothing to play for really, unless you're in the top 2 or in the bottom 3 or bottom 2, you've got nothing to play for, because if you're in the top 6, you know you've got playoff place. So your league's over at Christmas, and supporters lose interest. And we've always noticed that attendances go down after the split. Until the split, and playing everybody on a level playing field, and then after that, it's just a bit pathetic. So that I think that'd be a great idea, because it cut down your travelling costs over the season. I think that'd be a great idea. North and South, 2 leagues, and then have the playoffs between the 2 leagues at the end of the season.
Yeah, maybe have like the final at the racecourse in Wrexham or something like that. That could certainly be something to think about.
You could have it in Newtown if it was North and South final. You could have it in Newtown, or Aberystwyth, or whatever.
Yeah.
You could even have it down, you could have it down south one year and up north the next. Maybe, there's lots of ways to do it, but I don't think the Welsh FA are interested. I think they like this 12-team rule, and I just don't think they're interested. For me personally, I'd rather see a 16-team rule where you just play everybody home and away, and it is what it is. But I do like the idea of North and South regional leagues and then playoffs at the end of the season to replace the European playoff.